Welcome to the video for Unit 4, Day 3. This video will be the basic version of the lesson. If you are not at the basic level, you should exit and go back to find the proficient or advanced versions. Today's lesson is on adding and subtracting polynomials, and this can look a couple different ways. So I will do an example, and then I'll give you some to work out before doing another kind, and you have space on the reverse of your worksheet to work out those examples. Here's the first example. Notice that I have two polynomials, each in parentheses, and they are being subtracted in this case. This subtraction symbol is your first step. This is kind of like a -1, which means that you are multiplying it to the second polynomial. And that means you're going to have to distribute it, which means it flips all of those signs. The first polynomial doesn't have a coefficient, so I can bring it straight down. And the second polynomial now has all opposite signs because that's what happens when you multiply by a negative. From here, my parentheses are gone. All I need to do is combine like terms. Remember that like terms have the same variable and exponent. It might help you to underline like I have. And when you combine them, you simply add the coefficients, paying attention to your negative symbols. So 6x squared minus 4x squared becomes 2x squared. And then the second term becomes just x. You could write 1x if you like. And plus 5. There are no more like terms, so this is the simplified form of my polynomial. Some important reminders are that make sure you distribute to all of the terms in the parentheses, not just the first one. Of course, you need to remember what like terms are and how you combine them. Here are 4 problems for you to complete. Please turn to the reverse side and solve these problems. Pause the video here. When you press play again, I will show you the answers. Here are the answers for the first 4 practice problems. You should have completed them on the reverse side of your worksheet. It looks like this. This is number 1 and number 3, followed by number 2 and number 4. If you need more time to look at any of these, pause the video. Otherwise, we'll move on to the second example. The next example looks pretty similar, but there's one important difference, and you'll notice the difference out front. In this second example, we are adding, and the first polynomial has a coefficient of 2. So just like we distributed the negative up top, we're now going to distribute the 2, which means that we're going to multiply it. Now, really important that you only multiply times the first polynomial and that you keep your variables and your exponents. The second polynomial has no coefficient, so I just bring it down. And now I'm all set to combine my like terms. Notice that x cubed doesn't have a like term, so it's just going to stay on its own. And when I combine -8 and +8, those 2 coefficients turn into a 0, which means actually the terms cancel out. I don't even write x squared. 5x is the next step, and 2 minus 1 is plus 1 as your constant. Some important reminders for this type of problem include make sure that you only distribute to the first parentheses if only the first polynomial has a coefficient. And we talked about what happens when you can't combine terms or if 2 terms cancel out. Here are the problems for you. Again, you should flip the page over and solve these problems out in the space provided for 5 through 8. Pause the video here to work out the problems. When you press play, I'll show you the answers. Here are the answers for the second set. Okay? Question 5 and 7. And 6 and 8. If you need more time looking at the answers, pause the video here. Otherwise, press play and we'll go on to the last example. Your last example of adding and subtracting polynomials is very similar to the first two, except that this time, instead of just multiplying a number times one polynomial, we're going to multiply a term in the place of a coefficient. The first polynomial stays just like it is. In fact, I can bring it straight down because there's no coefficient outside. Now, when I distribute the negative 2x squared, it's important to remember that the negative goes with this term, and also that you have to multiply by both pieces. Negative 2x squared times x becomes negative 2x cubed because you add the exponents when you multiply variables. Negative 2x squared times negative 4 becomes positive 8x squared. And of course, now I'm ready to combine like terms. X cubed minus 2x cubed is negative 1, or just negative x cubed. There is no like term to go with 8x squared, so it comes down just like it is. There is no like term for 3x or for negative 1. And that's your final answer. Important remembers for this type of problem include the true understanding of what distribution is. When we multiply right here, it means that you're going to add your exponents for the variables. The last two practice problems for you are numbers 9 and 10. Please simplify and solve these out. When you press play again, I will show you the answers. And here's number 9. And number 10. That's it for today.